I have finished this side border, and I have everything set up for doing the interior now. And I'm going to go and into this interior group, and now I'm going to have to do a relocate. Okay, you can see this pattern that I have put on there. It's a little push pin, I call it. It is a pattern I can use to locate my quilting patterns around a particular point if the pattern I'm using does not have a sharp point that I can use to do a relocate. And the start and end of this pattern is up above the bottom, so it would be difficult to use that. So I just paste this in a point on the quilt and use that to do my relocate. So I'll select that pattern and use it to do the relocate. I'll place the needle right in where that pattern is. What I did was I took a single stitch and left a thread so I could use that thread to locate the point where that pattern was placed. All I need to do now is right click and do a relocate. Now I'll go down and get my relocate, shift all to one point, let it snap to that end of that, left click, click yes. That'll locate all the patterns around that. Now I do not have to toggle this as unsewn or as sewn because it is the last thing that was put on the screen, so it would quilt last. I'm going to leave that alone for now. I need to go and draw a boundary. Everything is lined up for the next quilting area, so that's how easy it is to get everything back into alignment. Now I'll just quilt out this section. Okay, I finished this next area here of the interior of the quilt, and I'm ready to go and place the needle over on that right hand border. But before I do that, I'm going to go here. I need an place where I can definitely do my relocate. So I'm going to place the needle here at a point at the bottom of this row and just take a single stitch and bring up the thread as a marker, and that gives me a point that I can do a relocate and have my reference point. So let me get my thread here. Okay, I have my thread in place, and now I'm going to place a pattern in that place. I'm going to move back to where I did the single stitch and place the thread. I'll just go over, use my push pin, repeat patterns, change this to start point, click OK, and there it is. It's right in that area right there. So That's where I want that to be. Now I can go over to my other group and finish this side border, or finish the next area rather. I'll just go over to the border group, move my machine in place, got to do my relocate. I'm securing this thread to make sure I don't lose it. Okay. Place the needle at the very end of the last repeat that was stitched in this border. Needle's there. I have to get this all aligned. So what I need to do is check and see. You can see it's a little bit off. I'll right click, relocate, shift all to one point. That's the point I want to relocate around. Click it. Click yes. There, everything is relocated around that point. Then once I go, I'll draw my boundary. My boundary is drawn, and I have over here selected 4 repeats. I'll show you 1, 2, 3. I know I can stitch 3, but I'll select this 4th one. See, it goes down below my boundary, so I'll deselect that. Right click, unsewn. Now these are all unsewn, and they are going to stitch from the take-up roller towards the belly bar. That's what I want. So all I need to do now is select these, select all 3, right click, relocate, shift selected to one point, and this point is what I want to relocate over to that point. So I put my cursor there, left click, click yes, and there they are. They just fall right into place. All I need to do now is go and check for the alignment, and this one, everything's a little, it's okay here, but this area, see, this is why you need to check everything and make sure that everything is going to align the way you want it to. I want to make sure my end snap is off, and I'm going to grab this box, move it over to this like this. That's going to move it away from this outer boundary. Now I'll take this one, turn on my end snap, snap it there, turn off the end snap, grab this one, and be careful not to stretch it. Just move it over so that it is out of the way. Now, that's what I need. I'll save this and stitch it out. Okay, the border pattern on the right side has now been stitched, and what I'll do is I'll continue down this left edge with the next patterns I can quilt. I can quilt the inside. Then quilt the next area inside. Then quilt the next area on the right side of the border. And I'll just continue to switch back and forth using relocate to position all of these patterns into place. So I'm ready to roll the quilt. You see, it's the same type of action over and over and over. Here I'm back to the left side border. I'll place the needle where the last stitch was made in that pattern. Then I simply will do my relocate again, and this time I'm going to use relocate shift all to one point, right click, relocate shift all to one point, turn on my end snap, let it snap to that, left click, click yes, and there it is. It's all lined up again. So that's how we do that. And again, I'll draw my boundary. Okay, my boundary's in place. I know I can quilt 3 repeats. I'll do the same thing that I did before. I'll select 3 repeats. Now you have to look at these. I'll toggle them as unsewn. Now here's what we have. We have start, next, end. So it's going to try to stitch this way. And again, I'm going to select them. Okay, it starts down here, ends up there. I'll right click, combine them, right click, reverse start and end. Now it starts up there and ends down here. Select it. I want to relocate shift selected to one point. This is the point I want to use. Where the needle is where it's going to go to. And you see they just move right over there. Okay, get my end anchors. Turn off my end snap. And I'm simply going to grab this and move it over like that. And it looks like it's going to be very good. I'll check my point up here. Make sure everything is connected. I'll select that, turn on my end snap, looks like it might have been okay. I'll do Control Z that. Okay, zoom in and look at this. Okay, that looks good. I'm gonna go ahead and tell it to quilt and see how well it's lined up. Okay, that started in exactly the place I wanted it to start. So I'm happy with that. So here we are. We're going to continue this. Then it is simply a repetition of doing the same thing over again. Stitch this, stitch the inside, stitch the right. When I get down to the bottom, I'll show you how I am going to finish this quilt. Working on the last part of this quilt, I have my boundary drawn around the left side, the bottom, and the right side, and the patterns have been moved into position on this left boundary for the left side of the quilt in that border. I'm going to quilt this out. Then I will go and finish quilting this interior, then come back and work on quilting the remainder of this border pattern. So I'm going to stitch this out first. The left side border is finished. It's finished down to this point right there, that last repeat in that side border. I'm going to go now in and quilt my interior in here, this part right there, finish that. Okay, I've relocated using this point right there, the bottom of that little pattern, and drew my boundary, adjusted the pattern to fit. All I need to do is stitch. Okay, the interior part of this quilt is all finished. All I need to do now is finish the bottom border and the right side border. And these markers, I can select all and toggle all sewn if I want to. Okay, go to the borders. Now all I have to do is finish this border here. And what I think I'm going to do is quilt this bottom border, and then I will connect this right side border in between there. But first I'm going to delete my boundary and draw a new boundary. The last part of this right side border has been positioned. Now I have the needle at the end point of this last stitch in the last repeat in this bottom border and the corner. Then I made sure that this last repeat in this side border was located right there where the needle is, or where the needle will be. I'm going to move it there, and then I made sure this was connected to that point. And we'll go and look at this point. I'll just move the machine. See, I think in some cases doing these borders is too made to be very simplified, but it is not. So I move the needle up to this point right here, and I think probably I'm zoomed in, so this should work out. When I start this, I'll make sure that it connects. Okay, this quilt is all finished. The border is quilted all the way around, and the interior is all quilted. So you notice all throughout this, and I do not use this border corner icon, because when you set that up, you're setting it up as if everything was perfectly straight. And you're going to find out that that is not the case. So I never use that. I do all of my borders exactly the way I have done this video. There's just too many things that change as you quilt. Your shrinkage continually changes. So you must make many adjustments as you do this. Hopefully, for new people especially, this video, and there's several videos in this while I'm doing this quilt, so I'll put that information out on the group, so maybe this will help. I hope so.